Once that train has left the station, you don't know where it's going. It's a really dangerous political strategy.
A lot of deals are being made. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today, there is deals being made all over the world with America, but Canada is not one of those countries. Carney not able to cut a deal with Trump. The housing market is starting to burst in Canada. Trump has just received the biggest present to a president in American history, and First Nations are pissed off about the idea of separation, yet have been caught getting funding to oppose this idea. Let's jump into this. Starting off this episode, we've got breaking news here. Judicial recounts have been completed on all 338 seats, and they've all flipped to the Liberals. Our elbows literally cannot get any higher. With the recount that we've seen in Terrebonne, this Quebec riding, as this election watcher account has pointed out, most of the recounted ballots have gone to the Liberals. So after a recount, 56 gone to the Liberals, only 11 to the Bloc, Conservatives 5, and the NDP 4. So we'll have to watch this closely and see how many more ridings get flipped to the Liberals. If they get flipped one by one, as this account has pointed out, if the Liberals get a majority government by flipping any more seats with 1 vote margin and 800 plus disqualified ballots, I think even Carney supporters are going to get spooked out by how bad this looks. Next up, we got Mark Carney here, taking some photo ops with soldiers. Ironic the timing considering this whole Brookfield Global Relocation Services $157 million contract with the Canadian Armed Forces. And you got Carney taking these photos here. Okay, Carney. Not the best look, man. Got this coming from Table Salt. Says there's now over 10,000 resale condos on the market for sale in the GTA. This is the highest supply in history. There are an additional 23,918 units available for sale. The GT condo market is collapsing. It's absolutely crumbling right now. People are losing hundreds of thousands of dollars off their units, buying at the high there in 2022, trusting Justin Trudeau and interest rates and all of that, buying in with FOMO and losing huge amounts of equity. Imagine shopping for something and you have 30,000 options. Bargaining power, oh yeah. Let's say 200 units per tower, that's 150 full towers for sale. Something we're seeing happening in the last couple of days here is Donald Trump making deals, and one of the countries he's not making any deals with is Canada. So as we see here from Chris Stacey, it looks like Canada's being left out, elbows up. Thursday, we have the US-UK signed trade deal. Saturday, India-Pakistan ceasefire. Sunday, China-US reached trade deal. Tuesday, Trump to visit the Middle East. Thursday, Putin and Zelensky to finally meet. They want to have a ceasefire, another deal being made there to end that conflict. When will Mark Carney finally stick his elbows up for Canadians? Orange man bad, yellow man good. So we got this post going around. There's a lot of conspiracies about what's on the table and all that. I'm not getting into that. We got Starmer, Macron, and German Merz. They've all gone to Ukraine to make a deal.
It would be a lot of ring. Yeah.
Add in Zelensky and Donald Tusk of Poland. Got this one from Donald Trump. It says, after a long night of talks mediated by the United States, I'm pleased to announce that India and Pakistan have agreed to a full and immediate ceasefire. Congratulations to both countries. That is some good news. Apparently Donald Trump may have some talks over in the Middle East. He's doing a trip over in the Middle East. And there's something very interesting to note about that. And that is this. So apparently Qatar is going to be giving Donald Trump a new Air Force One 747 jumbo jet.
We are back with an ABC News exclusive. The Trump administration is preparing to accept a luxury jet from the royal family of Qatar in what may be the most valuable gift ever given to the United States by a foreign government. Sources familiar with the arrangement say the Boeing 747-8, known as a Palace in the Sky, will be available for use by President Trump as the new Air Force One. When he leaves office, ownership of the aircraft will be transferred to the Trump Presidential Library Foundation. The White House and DOJ did not immediately respond to requests for comment on this.
Now, if we look into this deeper, this 747 jet that Qatar is giving to President Trump for a new Air Force One. First off, you want to look and see if this jet is bugged. That seems the obvious thing. As it mentioned there, the biggest foreign gift ever received by the U.S. government raises substantial ethical issues. Now, what's interesting here is, as she mentioned, the official plane would be donated to President Trump's presidential library when he leaves office, allowing him to continue using it as a private citizen. So the U.S. government would own it, but he could still use it. That is a nice perk. This is interesting because moving back over to my board here, Donald Trump and this whole situation where Brookfield money came in, gave the bailout for the Kushner properties $1.2 billion, that coming from Qatar, and now Qatar donating that plane for Air Force One for Donald Trump, and he's able to use that afterwards. Little suspicious. They better check that plane for bugs. If we look on Twitter, there's a big fight back and forth between Trump supporters and Democrat supporters. It's a gift. It's a large gift, one that Donald Trump benefits from afterwards. Is it bugged? Who knows? Obviously, there's some ties here to Qatar. Next up, we got this breaking news. So a deal has been made between China and America.
I want to echo the Secretary's remarks with respect to the Swiss government. They've been so welcoming, and they've hosted this, and everything has gone off flawlessly, and we appreciate that. And again, to the Chinese negotiators, Vice Premier Liu He, Vice Minister Li Qiangong, and Vice Minister Liao Min, worked very diligently, and these are very tough negotiators. A couple of them I know from before, and have had past interactions with them. And this was, as the Secretary pointed out, a very constructive 2 days. It's important to understand how quickly we were able to come to agreement, which reflects that perhaps the differences were not so large as maybe thought.
They don't go on to say what the actual deal is yet, but there's some deal here, trade deal with China and United States. This press release here said United States has a massive 1.2 trillion trade deficit, so the president declared national emergency, imposed tariffs. Aside from that, doesn't have any details yet. So until Trump comes out and says what the deal is and what has been signed, which will likely be him to announce this, we don't know. Next up, we've got more First Nations pissed off about the idea of Alberta separating.
Well, if you want to separate from Canada and you still have exploration rights, why should we allow you guys to continue to explore within our traditional territories if you want to leave? Pack up your bag and go. That's my message to the Premier. You're not welcome here anymore.
Pack up your bags and go. So we take a look at Section 87, the Indian Act. This essentially states that First Nations don't have to pay GST. They don't have to pay PST in British Columbia on anything on the reserve. They pay limited tax based on if they're working off a reserve or on the reserve. If they work for an employer on reserve, they pay no income tax in Canada. They have special rules for property taxes, business taxes. They're exempt from fuel and tobacco tax. They're exempt on carbon levy. They're exempt on transportation fuel, natural gas associated with reserve activities, property tax exempt on reserve lands unless local First Nation taxation laws apply. And since 2015, $22.3 billion has been allocated towards infrastructure projects in Indigenous communities. Funding has increased from $680 million in 2015 to 2016 to over $3.8 billion in 2023 to 24, with a commitment of $8.1 billion to date towards meeting the needs of First Nations children through Jordan's Principle. Jordan's Principle is a legal rule in Canada that ensures First Nations children receive health care and social services without delays caused by jurisdictional disputes between federal and provincial governments. When it comes down to it, it's time for all Canadians to be of equal value in this country. So people leaving comments here saying that they 100% rely on government and are given millions upon millions. I just showed they are given millions upon millions, billions of dollars. Comes down to it, all Canadians should be treated the same. No more special deals. The things don't get better for the chief because Alberta First Nations chief took $55,000 to oppose oil sands. Opposes Alberta independence. Bro got paid off. You bet he did. So Sheila Gunreed posting this one here. So this money, it says here, comes from the Tides Foundation. That's one of these well-funded social justice organizations. So the chief here, Alan Adam, took the money. No wonder he's pushing back against Alberta separation. With all that, we've got Cpac, First Nation located in Northwest Ontario, has filed a $200 million lawsuit against the Liberal government over failure to provide clean drinking water and sanitation. Someone says here how much money have they received. Table Salt asks Grok. Canada has given Indigenous people since 1867 between $460 and $570 billion. I haven't verified that number. I'm sure it's a lot of money, whether that's completely accurate or not. You got to wonder, though, with that much money and there's still not clean drinking water, there's probably some corrupt chiefs, like the one I just showed, they're cashing in a lot of this money and not giving it to the people, not doing what's right for the First Nations of Canada. I mean, we see that with Burke Mountain got sold off in Greater Vancouver by one of the First Nation chiefs and then just turned into a big housing development. That's one guy just selling off a piece of Indigenous land to get rich off of it. Now we're seeing stuff like this, University of Ottawa to cover full tuition fees for Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation students. Why? Why are some people valued more than others in this country? As this guy says, how is this not our word? This is our word. That's what this is. This needs to end. We need to have equal rights for all citizens in Canada, especially after just seeing the spending, this spending here, whether it's 500, 400, whatever, however many billions of dollars. It's time for all Canadians to be equal in this country. Next up, we got this one here. It says Canadian business owner drops bombshell. Government pays him to hire migrants over locals. This is basically screwing over the Canadian youth from getting jobs.
The kids today are just struggling. The 20-year-olds, there's no jobs for them out there.
Who gets all the jobs?
The migrants. The companies get to hire the migrants. When they hire them, they pay them less. Okay, and also they could get kickbacks from the government. I own a convenience store, for instance. I hire you, you're from India. Then I get an MLR9, I get to hire you, and basically what happens is I pay you $20 an hour. The government every 3 months gives me a 30% kickback. When I was in Prince George, my hometown, the people at the movie theater, the lady was telling me she doesn't want to work here anymore because everyone she works with is Indian and they all speak Punjab. So she goes to work. She's a Canadian kid that grew up in a small conservative town that can't work in a place because no one that she works with actually speaks English.
So this is another problem, but the reason why Trudeau and the Liberals brought this in is because all their business buddies would then be able to take advantage of this, making their business operations cheaper. And it's only after the government got blasted year after year after year, they started cracking down on some of this stuff, the immigration rates and all that, but they've been milking Canadians dry with this stupid system and devastating young Canadians' ability to get jobs.
Because they come here and they don't speak English either. If you were that person that owned the movie theater and your cost of doing business were, 30% went straight into just hiring the kids, hiring employees. Now, if that 30% now to pay 60% of that 30% because you got that all back, you're going to make more money. So what do people do? Yeah. They take care of themselves and their family. So they will hire those people because their family is going to get rewarded as a result.
Yet Liberal boomers voted for this. They voted against Canadian prosperity, against Canadians' youth. Well, I don't know exactly what program he's talking about in this video. I'm assuming he's talking about the Labor Market Impact Assessment, the LIMA program. But we also got this one here, up to $5,000 for every student you hire through the program, up to $7,000 for every student you hire that is in their first year or is from an unrepresented group. These are incentives based on women in STEM, persons with disability, newcomers, Indigenous students, visible minorities. The LIMA program, as this guy's posted here, a map of Calgary. It says here's all the companies in Calgary taking advantage of this. Companies will post this saying they can't find people to work. They register with the program, then they end up on this map. I bet you there's a bunch of Calgarians looking for jobs, and these companies don't want to hire native Calgarians, they want newcomers. And the reason for that is often the newcomers will be attached to the company as part of their visa program. So then what ends up happening is these businesses will misrepresent them for what they hire them or pay them less or just say, I can't pay you the full wage. And there's nothing that they can do if they complain to the government. They lose their LIMA program with the business. Then they'll have to go back home to India or whatever country they're from. So it gives the business extra leverage to undercut and underpay these people. We got Brittany posting a response to it here saying, this subsidy used to apply to apprentices. Only young white men were excluded in the rebates for their education. It helped me as a woman get a better job in education I could afford, but I can't help but wonder why it was never given to the men of Canada. This is blatant R word against white Canadians. That's what's happened in this country. For a party that's supposed to be inclusive, the Liberals are not inclusive to white people. We've also got programs coming from this, the EHRC, Electricity Human Rights Canada. You'll see here it says a wage subsidy of up to 50% or $10,000 maximum for the cost of the first few months onboarding is available to eligible employers. So there are multiple programs. Once again, I don't know exactly which one this guy's talking about. Got this one from Scott Moe. It says a new poll shows a high level of anger and frustration in Saskatchewan, driven by years of unconsulted anti-resource policies of the Trudeau NDP government. It shows there's a clear path forward for PM Mark Carney. He's calling for him to repeal Bill C-69 so pipelines can get approved in Canada again. It's not going to happen, and Canadians are going to get more and more pissed off. And what Scott's talking about here is one part of this Angus Reid poll. What if BC makes it clear they oppose any attempt to provide tidewater access to Alberta and Saskatchewan? Out of the Albertans leaning towards leaving and leaning towards staying, they're more likely to leave if this is the case. 74 and 66% if we look at Saskatchewan. Big numbers here too, 71 and 51%. So this really pisses off the local people. They know it brings prosperity. I'm guessing if they asked this exact same question regarding Quebec and building energy east, they would feel similar. Next up, we've got Vesper posting this one. Got Greta Thunberg in a deleted tweet saying, a top climate scientist is warning that climate change will wipe out all of humanity unless we stop using fossil fuels over the next 5 years. So this was posted in 2018. Obviously, nothing has happened. It's been 7 years. So as he says, if you could tell her to her face what you thought after she deleted this tweet, what would you say? Next up, up on CTV, we've got this one here. This is talking about the Angus Reid poll that came out. The fact that this is making it onto CTV, they're scared. They're terrified of this idea of Alberta wanting to separate because Alberta's that cash cow that they need.
Alberta didn't start this fight, but rest assured, we will finish it.
Speaking to Albertans in her live address, the Premier promised a goal in that fight is to overhaul federal energy policies.
The federal government must end all federal interference in the development of provincial resources by repealing the No New Pipelines Law, C-69, the oil tanker ban.
Demands Danielle Smith may need to see results on soon.
About 1 in 5 Albertans who are really on board with wanting their province to leave the country.
According to new numbers from Angus Reid, 19% of Albertans would definitely vote to leave Canada, with 15% in Saskatchewan. If Ottawa committed to building Energy East, 65 and 69% of voters leaning towards leaving would be more likely to stay. But if BC opposed access to Tidewater, those leaning towards leaving would be nearly 75% more likely
This is huge.
to want to go.
Listen, there is some frustration in this province, and I can't implore on just how serious some of that frustration is.
Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe stresses lowering the temperature has to come from Ottawa.
We very much believe that there's a path forward with this new Prime Minister and whoever is in his cabinet for him, and his government to change course.
Puts a lot of pressure on the Premier to get some wins from this. The good news is she's got a new partner.
This political analyst advises Danielle Smith to tone down the rhetoric on separation and work constructively with the new Prime Minister.
They think they're being clever by, we'll just have a referendum and let people express their views. But, once that train has left the station, you don't know where it's going. It's a really dangerous political strategy.
No, the Liberals thought they were clever. They thought they could just sweep all this SDTC documents and scandals, $400, $500, $600, $700 million under the rug that they've been funneling to well-connected insiders and think they could get away with it. They got rid of Justin Trudeau. They put in their new guy, Mark Carney. They used Donald Trump fear tactics to win the election. We haven't forgot about this. But the difference is now Canadians are even more pissed off.
Nearly 80% of Albertans polled say they are following conversations on separatism closely. Shaylan Skolsky, CTV News.
This has been a paid political announcement by the Carney government. Part of the problem exists through these experts. Where do they come from? Only God knows. If these experts are so brilliant, why do we have these current problems? Doesn't the government spend billions annually feeding these so-called experts who basically know squat? They bring in experts who support their narrative, who support their vision, their agenda. That's it. Their experts are paid off and offer nothing but thumbs up to the government. At this point, with so many deals being made, how many more countries will make a deal with Donald Trump before Mark Carney will stick his elbows up and actually fight for Canada?